Welcome to the M word, Melissa. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you too.
That is great. And it looks like it's sunny where you are, and we're expecting storms. So just fingers crossed we get through this without any internet interruption. But I'm excited to talk to you for many reasons. We will get to the fact that we are both Swifties later in the conversation. But why don't you just start out, Melissa, with a little bit about your business and the network you've built and your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my company is called Powerful Women Rising, and I created this company 2 or 3 years ago with the intention of helping female entrepreneurs in particular learn how to grow their business through networking. And a lot of times people stop listening at that point, and I'm like, no, no, wait, keep listening because if you're anything like me, you're like, okay, no, I'm not, I don't network, right? Because we have this idea that we think of that this is what networking means, and it's sleazy and it's schmoozing, and we're making small talk, and I'm sending you a referral. So now you have to send me a referral. And I don't believe that's how networking is. And I don't believe it's how it has to be. And I don't believe that's how it works the best. So, my entrepreneurial journey actually started on accident. I inherited a full client load from another entrepreneur who had a business in the legal field. And he decided to go get out of that business. I was subcontracting with him. He said, hey, do you want all my clients? I said, sure. And overnight, I was an entrepreneur with a full client load. And I was like, wow, being an entrepreneur is super fun. Everyone should do this. My
It's
second
so easy, it
business,
just lands in your lap.
right? It was amazing. I loved it so much. My second business did not go the same way. So my second business was called Love Starts Here. I was a dating and relationship coach for 7 years. And that was when I really learned the hard truth about what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and that we can't just show up and do the thing we want to do, right? We can't just like show up and sell our products, or show up and coach people on their relationships, or show up and help people with marketing. We have to do all of the other stuff too. And I learned a lot through trial and error. I wasted a lot of time and money on things that I thought were going to be the thing and never actually were. And in retrospect, the one thing that had built my business and brought me consistent income was the relationships that I had made and the connections that I had built. And so that was really what inspired me to start this company, was to really help women build their businesses with the support of other women and intentionally and authentically network.
So I'm just curious, like what about the dating and relationship business? Do you still do that one in addition, or did you transition away from that?
Yeah, I transitioned out of that when I got married.
I said, it sounds like there was an ulterior motive maybe in that.
It was no longer cool for me to be on all the dating apps, apparently.
Well, I think that there's a lesson in there for entrepreneurs to think about like how like will my personal life like align with what I'm doing here later. But I love that, there's a continuity thread here though. It's about relationships, right? Like business is relationships. And, unless you're literally selling like widgets and or pens, even pens can be used as a relationship building tool. So much of it is about human connection. And I tell us more about what brings somebody to you. Do people know they don't know how to network? Is that like, or do people discover that along the way and then someone says, you need to talk to Melissa?
I think people know they don't like networking,
Hmm.
and maybe don't realize that there's a different way to do it that they could actually like. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of crossover between when I was coaching my dating clients and the people that I work with now, in terms of, you can't go on a date, go on three first dates with three different guys and then be like, I hate dating. Well, you can, and you probably will. But at some point, you will decide to go back out and try a fourth date, right? Because the fourth date has nothing to do with the first three dates and how terrible they were. Similarly, with networking, what happens is people try out one networking group, they go to one or two networking events. That's not their vibe. And then they're like, I hate networking. I tried it. It was horrible. So a lot of times people come to me often through my monthly virtual speed networking event, because that's very highly promoted as an event, a networking event for people who hate networking, or a networking event for people who feel awkward or uncomfortable or nervous networking. And I think when they come to that event, they realize that there is a different way to do it. There are different people to do it with. There are different formats to do it in. And part of what makes it successful is finding the way that works for you. I'm not, there's these networking events where there's not really a lot of structure. You just grow and you have a drink and you have a snack and you mingle and you chat. And those kind of events are like my worst nightmare. Like, I am not the person who wants to go up to a group of people I don't know who are already talking and be like, "Hey guys, what you talking about?" Like, that stresses me out. Now, if you give me a networking event where you say, "Okay, you sit at that table, talk to those four people about this topic I'm going to give you for 10 minutes, and then we'll switch tables and switch topics." I could do that all day long, right? And for some people, that sounds terrible. So that's a lot of it, is finding the format and the style and the types of people that you like to network with. And it's going to
Right.
be different for everybody.
Yeah. And I think there's probably this idea too of, is networking sales? No. Is
Mhm.
networking marketing? Kind of. Is that, like where does it fit in all of the other things that you're doing, and how do you leverage, like, to me, the power of networking, and I do love to network. I think it's one of my natural skills. And frankly, like, part of my desire to be in business for myself was like, well, then I get to go out and talk to everybody about it. Like, how fun is that? Um, Although there are definitely challenges, because there's days you're just like, I want to stand against the wall or only talk to the people I know really well, which is not really why I'm here to meet new people. Um, that said, and I probably have lost the thread on what I started to talk about here, but it's to me, the power, like a success, like to what that was so successful, that networking event was so successful for me, is the powers in the follow-up. It's not what you do in the conversation where you meet somebody. Hi, Melissa, I'm going to talk to you for 5 minutes, and like we find out we have three things in common, but it's like, now what? And I think so many people don't do any sort of next step. And if you rely on like if you think you're going to grow your business in 5 minute increments, like that's where it falls apart, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to the first thing that you said about people thinking that networking is sales or that networking is marketing. And it is, and it's also a lot of other things too. I think one of the reasons that people think that they don't like networking, or they think that networking doesn't work, is because they think that the goal of networking is to find clients or to make sales. And I always tell people the goal of networking is actually to grow your network. And there's a lot of different roles that people can play in your network. You may be somebody who consistently engages with me on social media, and that's a great person to have in my network. You may be somebody who is always meeting new podcast hosts or people who are running events. And so you're always in these spaces where you're like, "Oh, you got to talk to Melissa. She would be great for this," right? You may be somebody in my network who I collaborate on projects with. So there's a lot of different roles to be filled in your network. And so you're not just going in there looking for like, who is the person in here that wants to buy my thing?
Hmm.
That's when it gets sleazy and salesy and weird. And that's often when people start to think like, this doesn't work. I went to this networking event and nobody bought my thing. Um, in the early days of networking, I totally thought that's what networking was about. And I spent so much money buying other people's things, right? Like, I had so much Rodan and Fields, so much doTERRA essential oils. Like, I had all the things because I thought, this is how this works. I buy your thing and then you buy my thing. And isn't this great?
Mm.
So that's the first shift, is remembering the purpose of networking is to build your network. And then to go back to what you said about follow up, yeah, I mean, you're not going to go from a first date to a marriage. Well, some people do, but most people don't go from a first date to a marriage. There has to be some effort and something that happens in between, right? And just like in dating, it's finding that balance between like letting the person know I'm still interested, letting them know that I'm thinking about them, that what they said when we met the first time resonated with me, that I just heard this podcast episode I thought they would be interested in. And so it mattered enough for me to send it to them and be like, hey, this reminded me of our conversation, without like coming on too strong and being the person that's like, I just met you at a networking happy hour yesterday and now you are calling me every day. Right. So,
Yes.
again, very similar to dating, but recognizing that you have to put in some effort and there has to be effort on both parts in order to maintain that relationship and grow that relationship in the long term. You can't just meet someone one time and then expect that they're going to be a valuable part of your network.
Yeah, so how are you using networking, Melissa? Like, because it's like your business is very, you talked about the digital, sort of on, you hit your front door, your first foot in the door offer being this virtual networking event. So virtual, but are you using like in real life networking for your own business journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I started networking when we moved to Colorado Springs 5.5 years ago, because that was when I decided I wasn't going to get another full-time job. I was going to just make this entrepreneur thing work. And it's so funny. I remember telling my husband, just give me 3 months to see if I can make like sustainable income. And if I'm not making money in 3 months, I'll go get a job. Here I am 5 years later. I'm like, just give me 3 more months.
Yeah.
No, not really. But it makes me laugh. Like, I'm like, what did I think was going to happen in 3 months? Like, it took me 3 months just to figure out that, like, no one was going to make me sit down and work, let alone like make a
I, I,
sustainable income.
I literally had a conversation 3 hours ago with somebody, and she says, Jennifer, you've told me before it's going to take twice as long and cost twice as much money to get your business off the ground. And it's like what you just said, it just like rings so true. It's like even if you turn the key on your website and your all of your socials and you've got your business cards and your perfect pitch and like and your Google page and everything ready to go, like day one, it's not like you know, people flock to
Yeah,
you. It takes time and effort
it
and
does.
blood, sweat, tears to get there.
It does. Yeah. So I started networking at that time because I knew it's what I was supposed to do. I didn't really know why. I didn't really know what networking was or how I was supposed to do it. I just knew I needed to meet people. So I started doing that. And that was really how I learned through trial and error, the types of events and groups that I enjoyed, the types of events and groups that I didn't enjoy, how to find the people at these events and in these groups that I wanted to connect with further. I had to learn through trial and error that I don't have to maintain a relationship with every single person that I meet at a networking event, and how to know the difference, how to follow up effectively in a lot of different ways, and how to stay organized doing that so it doesn't become another full-time job keeping up with people.
Yeah.
So I would say I do less networking now than I did in the beginning. But part of that too is I say that networking is like one of the most sustainable forms of business growth that there is, because if you think about it, there's a old definition of the word networking that is a broadcast system of multiple transmitters. And obviously that was thinking of like, a TV network or phone network or something like that. But I really like that definition because I think of me being my own broadcast system, right? So I've got this message and I'm like, hey, 100 people in my network, here's a message I want to share. Well, if I've got a network of multiple transmitters and I've got 100 transmitters in that network, now I've got 100 people to then magnify my message out to their network, right? So instead of 100 people hearing my message, now I'm like you, I don't do maths. Now 100 people times 100 people that they know are also hearing my what is that, 10,000? I don't know. A whole bunch more
A lot
people,
more than 100, 100,
a
100.
whole lot more people are hearing my message without me having to do more work, right? I haven't
Yeah.
had to go and build relationships with all of those people, but they're coming to me now as warm leads because they know, like, and trust people who are in my network. And so over time, if you are networking intentionally and effectively, you don't have to put as much time into it. You don't have to be going to as many like new events and meeting new people and doing new things, because your network is just continuing to compound exponentially as you nurture the people who are in your circle.
Yeah. So, is your business, is it ongoing coaching for folks? Is it more of a program and you launch people into readiness?
Yeah, it's actually my only offer is an online community called the Powerful Women Rising Community. And I say I say that's my only offer because I think for a lot of people, their community is like their starting point, and then they sell you into the other things. This is all I do. So I run the Powerful Women Rising Community. It's an online community for female entrepreneurs. It's a mix of networking. We do mastermind, or I call them brain trust calls, where you can get answers to your questions, have the other people help you if you're stuck, help you brainstorm, give you feedback. There's so much wisdom in the group. And really, masterminds like that are just another form of networking, but you're also accomplishing something at the same time. We do co working calls. And then I also have a higher level of membership that's called Rockstar membership. That's really for people who want to get better at networking and really focus on that networking piece. So we do a monthly networking lab where we focus on one aspect of networking and really figure out how do you be better at that, starting conversations, following up with people, figuring out who to keep in your circle and who to not keep in your circle. What do you do when it's starting to feel like a full-time job? So things like that. And then also people can book like one-on-one strategy sessions with me as they need to,
Mhm.
for whatever comes up.
So what's been the hardest thing for you building this business?
Building this business specifically,
Yeah.
I've never built a community before. I've never done like a subscription or a membership service. And when I launched this community 2 years ago, I did a founding member launch. I had 36 people in my founding member launch. They all paid for 6 months up front in return for providing me feedback. And at the end of the founding member launch, three of them decided to continue on out of 36. That's not a great percentage. And so I had to take a minute to figure out what had gone wrong. And what I realized was I had just kept adding more and more stuff to the community, thinking that what I had in the beginning wasn't enough value. And we needed to do this, and I needed to offer them this, and I need to bring experts in and do workshops and we're going to do a book club and we're going to do this thing. And what the feedback I got back was like, we didn't want all that stuff. We just wanted a community where we could connect with other women who are building businesses, like who, had similar values and missions to us, who wanted to support us. And we wanted to get better at networking in a space that was safe and judgment free. Like that was all we needed. And so that was hard, because you do the last thing you want to do is a founding member launch that then at the end of the founding member launch, everybody is like, this is terrible, we're leaving. But it was really good in the sense that it helped me to see that what I was offering was enough. And it was something that people wanted, and just to like let that be.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I give you a lot of credit for like seeking that kind of feedback loop, right? Like that's scary to even ask people, tell me why. And, it gets hammered into every conversation I've ever had with any business coach is like, you need to seek feedback. Nobody wants to because like you're afraid. We work with clients every day who are afraid to asking their customers for Google reviews because what if it wasn't a 5-star review? Like, well,
Right.
wouldn't you want to know that if someone's out there bad mouthing? Anyway, it's a vulnerable thing to like have somebody tell you if what you're doing is valuable or not to them. And so that's really there's a bravery involved in that I think business owners can do. And I mean, you said that you went through the whole it was a 6-month engagement so okay. So that's quite a bit of your investment in your mental space and in just your own visionary positioning as a business founder to get down there. So So how much of the what exists now for you was edited based on that? And how much of it was like, you know what? Maybe they weren't my people then. Like my offer
Mhm.
is still good. Because there is that fine line of, responding to what the market wants, but also maybe it's just you're not aligned with the right market. So how did you balance that?
Yeah. I mean, I think to your point, that's part of why it's so important to get that feedback and just kind of like get over yourself and realize that it's really not about you, unless the feedback is like, we all hated you and that's why we left. But generally, that's not going to be the answer. And it wasn't the answer here, fortunately. But that's how you figure out like, was this just not a good idea? Because I thought it was a good idea. But if 30 people, 36 people are telling me, or 33 people are telling me it actually is not a good idea, then I need to figure out, okay, well, when they signed up, why did they think it was a good idea versus why don't they think it's a good idea now? Right. And are there similarities in those people to where like maybe it just wasn't a good idea for people who have brick and mortar businesses? Maybe this is something that's really just beneficial for people who have online businesses or what are the commonalities between the people who loved it and the people who didn't? Is it that the people who got the most value of it are the people who were new in business, or the people who got the most value of it were the people who'd been doing this a while? So that was part of what was so important was figuring out like, is it me? Is it the offer? Is it them? Or is it a combination of the three?
Hmm.
Or maybe I just wasn't clear when I was promoting it what it was, right? Maybe what I said it was going to be sounded great. And then they got here and they were like, this really isn't what I thought it was going to be. So that I think is hard and it's scary, but it saves you so much time and money and energy because otherwise you're just guessing. And what if you guess wrong? Then you're doing another 6 months and it's still not working. So, pardon my cat. Um, so that was a big part of it is I intentionally chose the people for my founding member launch that I thought were going to be my ideal clients. So I suspected I had the right people. I just had to figure out what had gone wrong in between there.
Hmm. So where you've ended up then, does it still feel authentic to you? Or are
Oh
you
yeah.
missing not offering those things that you thought at the beginning you needed to offer?
No, it's actually better because what I offer now is exactly what I intended to offer in the beginning before I got in my own way, before my imposter syndrome kicked in and was like, this is dumb. People aren't going to want this. This isn't valuable. Right. And, I always remember this advice I got from a coach a long, long time ago when she basically what she said was, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know a little bit more than the people who are a few steps behind you.
Mm.
And that's really what this community has become. Like I learn alongside them a lot of times. And I am much more positioned as kind of the guide than I am the expert or the guru, which is exactly what I wanted it to be in the beginning. And the way that the community runs right now is perfect. I mean, I love it. I'm excited to be in the community anytime I am. Um, it's very clear, I think, to other people what the community is about and who it's for and who it's not for and who's going to love it and who's not going to love it. And when all of that gets clear, things become so much easier with
Hmm.
marketing, with sales, with all of the things, because it just kind of speaks for itself rather than you having to speak for it. So I
Right.
love everything that's happening in it right now.
So, are you coasting then? Or is there more to build, more to grow?
I wish I was coasting. No, there's always tweaks that I'm doing. There's always things that I'm learning. Um, I read a book at the beginning of this year called Retention Point about memberships and subscription services and how we often think we get so focused on bringing new people in, but really it's so much harder to keep the people that you have than it is to get new people to come in. And so focusing on making sure that the people who are in the community are being served so they are I want them to be happy and excited every time that payment comes out, right? I don't want them
Hmm.
to feel like, oh shit, I'm paying for this thing again that I don't even like. So that's part of it, is just always making sure that I'm delivering on what they want and finding that balance between always bringing new people in. Because, like you said in the beginning, if you're networking with the same people over and over again, that's not really how it's supposed to go. So it's important for me to be always bringing new people into the community,
Right.
and then also making sure that the people who are in the community are being served in the best way.
Yeah. So, like, how much of your job is that, um, how much how do you take your limited time, right? Because, and how do you decide how to chunk that up? Or is it just, right? If we could clone
Like,
ourselves, is
can
there
you tell me the
maybe,
answer?
does AI help you with any of this? Or is it really you behind the scenes doing all of it?
It's mostly me. I have a really fantastic VA. I've tried several VAs before her, and she is, just like with anything, you have to try a couple before you find the one that's right for you. And she is very intuitive, and she understands my ADHD brain very well, and is really helpful in terms of like, I have these big fantastical ideas, and she's like, okay, let's break them down into steps. And now let's figure out who's doing which step and when they're doing each step. And I need that because my brain, like by the time she gets to that, my brain is already on like the fourth fantastic idea that I've had before my coffee. So she helps me immensely. And otherwise, yeah, I do most of it myself. I do love Chat GPT, and I use it a lot. But I'm always trying to be careful of that balance between like, I try to use it more as like a business partner, or like somebody to like bounce ideas off of, or like, am I saying this in a way that makes sense? Or how can I say this in a way that makes sense, versus using it to write all my content for me?
Right.
Because it would be very weird for me to be somebody who's like all about relationships and all about authenticity and let's build real relationships, but you're actually not ever talking to me. You're only ever communicating with my Chat GPT. So I do love it. It saves me a lot of time, but I also recognize the limitations of it as well.
So what does success look like for you?
Oh, well, I think there's a couple different definitions of it. I think you know, there's the realistic definition, and then there's the fantastical definition. In the fantastical version, I'm living it right now. I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. Part of my goal with this community was to create a space for women who don't feel like they fit the mold, who feel like they are too much or not enough of something, who have either told themselves or been told that they can't be successful at business because they have ADHD, because they are not a type A personality, because they are not a morning person, or whatever it is, that we have this idea in our head of what we think a successful entrepreneur is. And I tried for so long to force myself into that box, and I just couldn't do it. And once I started really just leaning into like, let's see if I can actually just be me and succeed, it turns out it was possible. So, success for me is giving women a space to be themselves and be authentic and create genuine relationships, where they are supporting each other, and celebrating each other and helping each other through challenges. And that makes me really happy. The realistic version of that is success would be when this community is enough to sustain the life that I want to be living. Um, and we are on our way, but we are not
Just
there
3 more
yet.
months.
I just need 3 more months.
That's right. Just 3 more months. That's fantastic. Well, Melissa, I like to sort of close with more of a fun rapid fire. Um, what is your favorite social media?
I am obsessed with Threads right now.
Threads.
I
Awesome.
say that Threads is social media for people who hate social media. And I stand by that.
All right, you heard it here, folks. Is there a book you always recommend?
Oh God. Well, it depends. And like a business book or I really like weird psychological thrillers. So I don't necessarily always recommend those. Because sometimes people are like, are you insane? Why are you reading this? But a book that I often recommend is The Introvert's Edge to Networking by Matthew Pollard.
That's great. Where do you want to go on your next vacation?
I would love to go back to Maui. My Facebook memories were just showing me I was on my honeymoon there 2 years ago, and I would really like to be there again right now.
Facebook memories, man. It's like, yeah, they sometimes I'm like, just go away. I don't need to know that.
I know.
Well, my last question to you, I already know the answer, but I want to hear more. Taylor Swift, yay, nay, or don't care?
Oh, yay, all the way, all day. There is not a moment that I'm awake that I don't have a Taylor Swift song in my head.
Right? It's like there's an earworm for every situation.
Yeah. I think somewhere someone is hiding the fact that they studied like psychologically how do songs get stuck in people's heads, and she has used all of those tactics on us, and I am here for it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, we might not have been recording yet, but you said something like fake it till I make it. And it's like I immediately, like, I hear those words like as lyrics.
Yeah, you can't not.
I just
In
can't.
fact, did you notice I have my Taylor
I
Swift candle
did
behind me?
notice.
She's right back here next to Ken.
Well, last year I was asking my guests, Barbie or Ken.
See, we're like meant to be friends.
So what's your answer?
Well, I loved the Barbie movie,
Yeah,
but Ken was the best part of that movie.
Knuff. He was Knuff.
He's always enough.
So we actually recorded, it's a little bit, back in the archives now, but we did a special episode of the M Word breaking down the Barbie movie with a group of these powerful women entrepreneurs that I know. And it was multi-generational and it was fantastic, this
That's
conversation.
awesome. I'll have to go check that out for sure.
Fabulous movie. Yep, highly recommend it. Well, Melissa, this has been so much fun. I'm really glad to have you on the show, and I hope that uh, our listeners can take away some nuggets around your own journey, as well as what you bring to the table in terms of networking for building business. And so, if folks want more of you and your community, where can they find you?
Yeah, the best place is just to go to powerfulwomenrising.com. That's where you can find my podcast. That's where you can find more information about the virtual speed networking events and more information about the Powerful Women Rising community.
Fantastic. Well, we'll link to that in show notes as well, so make it easy for folks. And until next time, Melissa, thanks for being on the M Word.
Thank you so much for having me.